book literally feels like it was AI generated a little bit. It's like, I'm so picky about writing. I'm so picky about how people write and how a story is presented to me that if you're not doing it well, I can't finish your book. I need to reread it again, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Fuck. People will really just be reading anything these days and say, oh my god, it's a fucking masterpiece, I love this, when they're reading like a fucking Colleen Hoover book. I don't get it. What's up, guys? My name is Lulu, and these are my books. Today, we're going to be talking about books that in my personal opinion, have actually good writing. Because something that's becoming all too prevalent, all too common, in my opinion, in the book world, is books with horrific writing. Because, let's just say, Fourth Wing is an example of that. That book literally feels like it was AI generated a little bit. It's soulless, completely. I hate it. We already know this, though. Authors that just can't really write a story because they don't know how to tell the story, so they just kind of skip to, like, the interesting parts. Which, like, fine, you can do that, but you have to write those in-between bits to make those interesting parts make sense. You know what I mean? So, like, choppy writing. Let's just talk about books that actually have writing. I have 6 different books here that I want to share with you. And so we're just going to go through them, and I'm going to tell you about why you should be reading these books. Well, not reading. Well, why these books have actually good writing, and why I believe they are some of the best books on the market at the moment. Because, you know, they have actually good fucking writing. And I'm so picky about writing. Like, personally, as someone who writes as well for a hobby, it's not really a living thing. I just write as a hobby. Like, I'm so picky about writing. I'm so picky about how people write and how a story is presented to me that if you're not doing it well, I can't finish your book. I can't finish anything. So, like, please. First book that I want to talk about is Dracula by Bram Stoker. I read this last year for Halloween. It was my Halloween read. I annotated it, all of that. All of the good things. And this book I really, really enjoyed. I think it was also mainly because I had an audiobook with this, so it made the reading experience a lot better, in my opinion. You can check out the audiobook. It's fully narrated. It has a full cast, all of that. It's all the good things. But here's something about this book that I think a lot of people don't really understand. It's that this book, while it is wordy, while it does have a lot going on, it's actually very well paced. It's very well explained. It's very thorough. It's very well thought out. And something that has an undercurrent throughout the entire story is an amount of suspense that you don't really get from other horror books of this genre. And that is due entirely to its good writing. Like, this book, we already know what happens. We already know what's going on. We already know who the big bad is. His name is literally the title. But you can go through this book knowing who this character is, knowing, because he's mainstream, knowing that this character is the big bad, and still be surprised by what he does, because there's this undercurrent of suspense. You feel it. You understand it. There is this kind of fear that runs through you that you just kind of cannot not feel, you know? So that's a hallmark of good writing, in my opinion. Having a book, having writing that actually makes your reader feel the kind of image you're attempting to portray, the kind of feeling that you're attempting to put out into the world. If your reader understands that you're supposed to be scared, you have to make them feel it. And in this book, I was thoroughly creeped out. Pancake. No fucking joke. I was thoroughly very, very creeped out. Mainly because there were certain phrases within this book that would zone me back in. Because, you know, listening to an audiobook, it's kind of a little bit monotonous. But there are certain phrases in this book that make you zone back in so quickly. Where you're just like, what did he just say? Excuse me? So yes, I think this is a book with amazing writing. I think this is a book that everybody should read. Regardless of if Dracula is mainstream or not, the full story of Dracula is actually far more interesting than you would think, and all of the other vampire adaptations and whatnot don't really hold a candle, in my opinion. This book is really freaking good. It's really, really good. That's all I'm going to say about it. Next book. This book I actually haven't talked about a lot. And it's not for a lack of I didn't like it. It's more of just the fact that this is a book that I just have not read in forever. I've read it twice, but I just haven't read this book in forever. Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom Riggs. Okay, so let's say I've read the first 3 books twice. Yes. I mean that with sincerity. I probably read this book 3 times, but I've read the entire the first 3 books, the original trilogy, twice, right? And I never felt bored. I never felt like the story dragged in any place. I read this book, no struggle, no problems whatsoever. And that is a hallmark of good writing as well, in my opinion, because it has this quality of being easy to fly through. It has this quality of just being seamless. I had no problems going through this book in any way possible, simply because it was just very easy to understand, very easy to go through. It was very easy to just live through this book. And obviously I'm not living through it. Obviously, I really kind of wouldn't want to be honest. But this book has something about it, about the story, about the writing, that really makes you just kind of lose yourself within its pages. Like, there are photos gone through, like, dotting the pages and whatnot. There are old photos, old weird photos that replace some pages and whatnot. But those don't take you out of the story. In fact, they kind of enhance the experience, which is very different from people adding like random images or just being like, this song through this book makes it a better experience, when it completely does not fit the tone of the book at all. That is the difference, I think. In my opinion, the absolute difference of this book that makes this book so easy and so understandable is the fact that this book is exactly what it says it is. It gives you exactly what you expect. And this book moves and flows in a very seamless way. And there's no way to really be confused because everything is well thought out. And I really enjoyed the writing in this book. I need to reread it again, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Fuck. This is also a book that I don't talk about very much. It's a book that I've read twice. I haven't read the rest of the books I've only read the rest of the books once. But, again, this is also a trilogy. And I've read this book in particular twice. I need to reread these books again. Not for any particular reason. I finished the trilogy. I finished it completely. But I just want to reread them and annotate them going through it. Because the Infernal Devices trilogy by Cassandra Clare is, in my opinion, her best written series. And there's a reason for that. The writing between the Mortal Instruments and the Infernal Devices is very, very different. And that's because the Mortal Instruments was her first work. You can kind of actually see her progression in her writing as the books go on. There are some places where she lapses a little bit, City of Fallen Angels, but the Clockwork Triplets are a perfect example of how far writing can come within the same source material. Do you understand me? Like, personally, I've written several things in my life, and I like to go back to my old drafts to see exactly how far I've come along. I've posted some of my writing on Discord and actually like gotten good feedback and be like, yeah, your writing is definitely improving. I can tell you're better at explaining this, or you're better at this grammar, blah, blah, blah. You know, all of that. Seeing it in a traditionally published author is kind of a little bit more difficult. However, this is a perfect example of how you can do so much with similar source material. Because pretty much the Shadowhunter shit is all Cassie writes. And she did so well with this book. I honestly cannot even describe how much I actually enjoyed getting to know all these characters, getting to know the world in which this takes place. Because Mortal Instruments world is like early 2000s New York. This is 1800s Victorian London. You can actually feel like the world surrounding these characters. You can feel the world surrounding these characters completely and utterly standing apart from the characters within it. It feels like you can actually step into this book, into the London that they are in, without the characters. Like, the world building is amazing, actually. And the characters even more so, because these characters, all of them stand on their own. All of them are their own people. All of them love each other. And they don't blend into the background. That is something that is so hard to manage. Cassie Clare always has a very large group of characters. She always does that. But the thing about this book is that none of them fade into the background. I'm not forgetting who certain people are. I know who these people are, and I know who's good, who's bad. I understand that, and I don't forget it, because none of these characters are forgettable. And that's another hallmark of good writing. You can make all of your characters stand out apart from the world that you're creating them in. And the world you create them in also has to stand apart, because if it doesn't, it really just acts as a background for the characters. It doesn't act as like its own kind of thing. I love this book. I love this series. Absolutely adore it. This book just has such good writing, in my opinion. It's so good, so majestic, and honestly, I just love Tessa as a character. Tessa as a character, she's just so pure and kind of wholesome. And then her dealing with like broody Will and like musically inclined James is it's just such a good dynamic between all three of them. And I love the way it's written. I love the way it's portrayed. And I adore this series. I adore it. This book I've talked about a lot. I have been very vocal about the fact that this book has amazing writing. And I will never stand back from that. The Mask of Mirrors by M.A. Carrick. This book is obviously very niche. I haven't seen anybody literally talking about it. Nobody. I think I'm the only person talking about this book. That's how I feel about it. Anyways, this book is 600 pages. Over 600 pages, actually. All of the books in this series are over 600 pages. For very good reason, actually. This book does the thing that actually makes me want to read this book even more. It does the thing where it essentially creates a world it feels like you could just step into and just become a part of the culture. It establishes an entire different world, and it establishes an entire culture. It establishes an entire history as a background for everything that's going on present time in the story. And all of it stands apart from each other. You can pick out individual parts. You can explain the entire world's culture without delving into any of the characters. And that is the part that makes me so obsessed with this book and with this writing. The writing in and of itself is actually really good at just not feeling heavy. Despite its length, this book did not feel like it was weighing on my mind at all. I literally got halfway through this book and then finished the other half in a day. This book was good. I'm just going to say that. It's remarkably easy to read. And also, you can actually feel yourself sinking into this world every page you read. Regardless of how you feel about its length, regardless of how you feel about how much is going into this book, a lot of time and a lot of care was taken into creating a world that stands apart from the characters, into creating a world where it doesn't feel like everything else fantasy has ever done. Do you understand? Like, there are names in here that have been created. There are literally entire cultures, distant, far-off continents that have been created. And you understand this kind of thing because when they come up, they are well explained, but not so explained that it feels like they're info dumping on you. the entire building of this world into its own standalone thing is remarkable. And the writing that it's done in is completely, not just from a technical standpoint, but the writing that it's done in heavily contributes to that. It allows this book to essentially feel like its own movie. Do you understand? Do you understand? I adored the writing in this book. I enjoyed this book so much, and I'm so excited for me to be out of my little reading something that I've been doing, so I could actually finish The Liar's Knot and then go on to Labyrinth's Heart so I can finish this damn series, and then I can go back and annotate it in a year. Like, just, it's an amazing book. I've also talked about this book a lot. I literally was just talking about it in like my last video. Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. So I'm going to start this off by saying, I think personally, Crooked Kingdom has better writing than Six of Crows. Six of Crows took me a little bit to get into, actually. Like, past the first chapter, like, starts off kind of a little bit, like, kind of slow a little bit. You don't understand why it's there. You really don't. However, past that, this book was actually phenomenal. This book has amazing characters. This book and the writing in and of itself of these characters was great. I genuinely hate Nina, but like, me genuinely being able to hate a character means she was written well. Do you understand? And I loved Kaz. I loved Kaz so much that I wish we got an entire book about him, because the way he was written was great. Leigh Bardugo has an interesting way of writing characters. And this book obviously has its own thing with like the Grishaverse and all of that, which she obviously pulled from. But regarding her character work, it is phenomenal. I will not say that this book was bad, because it was not. It was amazing. I'm just going to say that. And specifically, the character work was amazing. That is a hallmark of great writing, when you can actually like see yourself talking to these characters, when you can actually have yourself see yourself having a conversation with these characters, because they are so well fleshed out, they are so well presented to you, and they actually have personalities that stand on their own and don't blend into everything else that's going on. They don't blend into the rest of the friend group. You see what I mean? Kaz in and of himself is his own little person. He exists in his own little world. We see that. But he comes out of it to assist his team. He doesn't say outright that he cares for his team. However, you can see it in his actions. You can see it whenever he interacts with Inej, whenever he interacts with Nina, whenever he interacts with fucking Wylan. You can see how much he cares for each of his teammates, and begrudgingly Matthias, as the book progresses. And the character work is absolutely amazing. I love this. I loved the writing in this book. Even though this is considered a YA and it reads more adult than anything else, I still loved this character. I still loved the work that went into this book. I still love the writing, and it's one of the things that I personally just have so much respect for. I really, truly do. This book, I actually have not talked about at all on my channel. I read it for a project, and it was a decision between this book or another one. And I decided on this book because I don't have nearly as much trauma from this book as I did from the other one. Alias Grace by Margaret Atwood. This book is entirely different from everything else that I've shown you so far, because this is a retelling of an actual historical murder case. Alias Grace, there was a murder case in Canada from the 1800s that actually happened, and this is a retelling of that entire case, as well as what happened to Grace. It feels fictional, but it's not. The thing about this book is that you can actually feel how it feels like it's written as a fiction. It's written as a fiction book, but you can actually see like all the sources and everything that she put into the back, in the back of the book. She puts all of the sources in the acknowledgments, and you can actually look up this case, and this is remarkably, like, there are some parts of that are fabricated, obviously, because there are some parts where it's just like, you wouldn't know what happened if it ran you over a truck. Honestly, you really wouldn't, because, you know, with historical events, you're only presented with the facts and what's been written down, not the interactions between the characters, not any of that. Margaret Atwood fills in those gaps very seamlessly. Margaret Atwood as a writer is a very interesting kind of person when it comes to writing, because everything she writes feels not exactly clinical, but you can always feel that her writing just has this kind of like almost eerie feel to it. Like, granted, the only books I've read from her are this one and The Handmaid's Tale, but these books, despite being based in like true beliefs and true events, do feel very fictional. The Handmaid's Tale is completely fictional, but you feel like you could just step into it. You really just feel like you could just sink into this world and not notice a thing. This book, I audiobooked the entire thing, and it was good. It was really, really good, actually. How does one say this? I personally, with Margaret Atwood's writing, I personally have a little bit of beef, because with her writing, every time I read her writing, I feel broken. I feel undone. I feel as though everything within me, every fiber of my being, all 3 of my collective brain cells have been put to the test with her writing. Not because it's bad, but because it's that good, because it gets me thinking. And honestly, I have no words to describe how good her writing is. Her writing isn't clinical. It's very straightforward, actually. It's very easy to read if you're looking for that. However, even though it's very easy to read, you can always feel yourself kind of in this like weird like seesaw with yourself. You feel very unsettled. And that's something that I greatly respect. Because regarding Margaret Atwood, she has this uncanny ability. I don't know whatever the fuck she was smoking when she wrote these books. She has this uncanny ability to essentially just make you feel completely immersed in this book as if you're experiencing it yourself, as if you are the main character. And honestly, that is something I will always respect, but also I have beef with her for. So yes, good writing. Good writing. Amazing writing, actually. But seriously, Margaret, you gotta chill, girly. You gotta chill. So yeah, these are books that I think have good writing. Hi, Mom. These are books that I believe have good writing. I think that good writing is very subjective. But at the moment, good writing is also like very scarce in the book world. I don't lay down. Hey, get off my jacket. Get off my jacket. Thank you. You're not allowed to be on that one because it's going to essentially collect all of your hair. Thank you. Thank you, baby. I think good writing is very subjective. However, I also think that there is a complete lack of it in today's society of writing and reading. People will really just be reading anything these days and say, oh my God, it's a fucking masterpiece. I love this. When they're reading like a fucking Colleen Hoover book. I don't get it. I really don't. But in and of itself, I personally believe good writing shows the strength and actual knowledge of an author. It takes us into the author's own mind because this is their story that they're telling. This is their story that they are putting onto paper, and they are portraying it in a way where it displays all of their abilities. It showcases all of them. It is so personal. And if you can't do good writing, I don't know what to say to you. I can't. I really can't. Because something so personal as writing, if you can't really do it well, I don't know why you're telling your story. I don't know how you are proud to put this out into the world. Like, I get it. Writing a book is a very arduous process. I get that. But making sure putting out this work that you know is not your best is not something I can respect. And sure, a lot of people are proud of their writing. A lot of people are proud of that. And I'm probably just being a picky little bitch about it. But still, if your writing is bad, I can't continue with your book. And if you are offended by that, I can't help you. I really can't. Anyways, guys, that brings this video to an end. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like button. And if you want to see more of my content, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you get notified every time I post a new video. I post weekly on this channel, so don't miss out. Also, if you want to see more of my content, leave me comments down below. What you want to see from me, what I should put on my TBR, what books I should move up my TBR. Say hi in the comments. Tell me what you're reading. I always get really excited when I see you guys' comments. It makes me feel so happy and appreciated. Anyways, guys, I love my Lumas. Bye!